Hello everybody and welcome back to Cities Skylines 2, where we are currently seeing a lot of accidents over here from what I believe is a windstorm? There's definitely a lot of accidents going on here, and that's probably going to create some traffic issues in this area. But to be honest, there's not a lot we can do about that other than just wait for it to clear. So it'll take us some time. That's fine. The windstorm appears to be broadly over. So we are seeing a fair amount of increased low-density residential demand. No doubt about that. So we do want to consider doing some additional low-density work here. So in terms of distance, let's take King Street out here. And let's run a new version of King Street over, which ideally won't displace any of this. This should be 224. That's 223, which is probably close enough. So let's do that for now. And then we should bring this straight down to here. And now that we have that marker, we can start to work on all of that. But this area should get rezoned, no doubt about it. I don't know why it got dezoned, really, because we just built the road and then rebuilt it, but whatever. Or destroyed the road and then rebuilt it. But I guess that would unzone that area, so sure. So we're going to take this out to 112 here, and then bring that guy on down right like that. Perfect. So that gets us that block there, right? So that's 1, 2, and then 3 vertical roads would be here, approximately. Why is that only 109 meters on this side? It must have to do with the with the slope that we've got going on here, because there definitely is a pretty sizable slope occurring here. No doubt about that. So that is 4, and then the next one would be the highway. So that's going to be some interesting ramps. No doubt about that. Let's take this one over to 112, and then this one to 224 if we can. Remarkably, we can. And at this point, we would need the highway to come through basically right here, right? So it would go through about like this, but we would want to elevate that. So that would come through right there. Okay, and then we would just deposit this to be about here. Now, we do have the fire watch tower right there, and we're going to have to move that eventually. But I'm not necessarily concerned about that at this moment. So for now, we can do something like this. This road is going to need to come south here, 224 meters. So that's right there. That's creating an overlapping item here. And we can see there's definitely some terrain issues out over this way. There's no doubt about that. Let's get rid of that section of highway. And is that resting on the ground? No, that just doesn't have a pillar. Seems safe. Seems very safe. Also, there's a little bit of water right there. Okay. I think we can actually see through the terrain in that area. Very awkward. Regardless, we're going to need to move the fire watch tower. And honestly, we can probably demolish this fire watch tower. I don't think it's necessary. Then, of course, we can get rid of the power line that's underground. There's not all that many trees over here, so it should be fine. We'll get rid of that. Perfect. And can we get a roundabout in here? Slope too steep, but only on this side. So we can definitely get rid of that and put this in. Okay. So this is where awkwardness is going to ensue a little bit here. I'm looking at this. This is definitely at a bit of an angle, but I'm not too concerned about that, to be honest. Okay. So this guy is going to want to come down over here. Obviously, we're going to run into a pillar. So I think we're going to terminate this road right here. And then we can bring a road down over this way. Kind of like that. And then this road would want to cross over here. We can use the curve tool to then curve it down somewhere over like here. And then bring it roughly parallel to the highway. It'll still need to be in curve tool, but that's okay. So it'll end up being roughly parallel to the highway, or approximately here. And then we can just bring that down to approximately here or so. So that'll be our exterior road there. Then we're going to run this road down, and do we have a pillar issue? Of course we do. Okay, so we're going to need to get rid of this section of highway. Run this guy down. This needs to go 224 meters. Okay, let's snap this only to the angle. 224. So right there. Then we can bring this right on in at a 90-degree angle. Approximately. Snap only to the angle for now. We're having a hard time finding 90. Okay, that should be fine. So something along the lines of that. Then we can continue to bring these roads down. So this will go another 224 meters. No problem. This will go 224 meters. Looks good. And then this would go 224 meters. And I don't know if we can actually pull that one off. Well, we know that we have a pillar issue over here because it doesn't have any pillars. And so we're going to bring this down to 224 meters now. And this over. Now that we have these markers, that's reasonably fine. I am wondering... Yeah. I mean, this is definitely at a jaunty angle. I'm going to get rid of that. We'll just use this as a marker for now. And we're probably going to end up... Well, we can actually bring this over. This is absolutely fine. So we would end up bringing this over. But if we bring this in a 180-degree angle from here, it ends up being like this. And we can see that is at a significant angle. So instead, I would like to bring it in to be about... Well, we could bring this, instead of being here, down to... Please don't snap to the angle right now. Because we know that this is about where we want it to be. So if we put it there, and then we snap to the angle, that corrects the angle a decent amount, but it's not perfect. So we're going to want to slightly correct this angle again, up to be about here or so. It's a very minor correction, and I don't think it's going to be very noticeable. This is much closer to being correct. It's not perfect, but it is certainly closer. Okay, next what we need to do, of course, is we need to connect these highways up. Can we put in a roundabout here? Slope too steep, up this way. I'm not shocked about that. So what I want to do instead is I want to grab this as... Hang on. I think I messed that up. I want to grab this. Okay, I think this one is the more accurate one as our marker. We can now eliminate that. And then we can put our roundabout in there. Perfect. So now this can be extended in either direction. For now, we'll take this up over here. That looks reasonably straight. I doubt it's perfect. It'll probably get pretty far off once it gets up here, and that is actually a pretty major concern. This highway does need to be quite straight. So for the moment, I'm going to remove that. And this road, we're going to do this a little bit more piecemeal. This road is going to be moved out over this way, but that slope too steep, which isn't shocking, given what we've got going on over here terrain-wise. So we should probably think about softening out this terrain out here. I don't necessarily want to remove this terrain feature, but we can soften it out a little bit, and, I mean, that does remove some character from it, but we can do that. Okay, can we run this up now? It's kind of close. But maybe if we removed it back to the intersection? That's a possibility. That's still coming back slope too steep, and we can see that it's definitely putting in a bridge there. This way works. Fascinating. Okay, I mean, that is less of an incline. So that's absolutely fine for the moment. What we can do now is we can think about the slope terrain tool, grabbing this position, and just modifying our slope and evening out that slope. Now, I think the problem here is the average grade. So I would expect this to not work. But if this does work, great. Yeah, so the problem is the average grade there. So we're going to have to lower the height of this area a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply level it at this point. And yeah, that's carving in a lot. And then we're going to create a slope like that. So obviously that creates some pretty ugly terrain there. We'll smooth that out in a moment. But that does allow us to bring this guy over. And that should, I think, be the worst area on this ridge. Everywhere else shouldn't be as bad. So now we can smooth this out a little bit by softening this.
Until conditions improve. This has been a local public service announcement.
How delightful.
I think that's pretty reasonable.
Another letter from our erstwhile listeners.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I think that's pretty solid indeed. Now, I'm not going to expand up this way just yet. I want to develop this area first. So, we should definitely bring this road down. So that's going to come down 112 meters, and then it'll go over, of course, 224.
Let's see here.
Looks good. And then the next road would come down 112 and go over 224. Cool. And finally, 112, which is nearly at the edge of the map. And then that can just merge into this road. Beautiful. So that'll be fine. And then we can bring this road in, like so. Now we can bring our highway down.
Since the time of the early explorers. Funk, by contrast, is an entirely
so it would be things like this.
Funk, as they say,
perfect. Do we need to run this down to here? I mean, we definitely can, surprisingly. We can get the pillar in on the sidewalk there, and sure, that seems reasonably fine. Now we just need to fill in this area and get some on-off ramps. So I'm going to do this more piecemeal because this way I'm hoping that we can run into fewer issues with specifically this highway, which is going to be a very long-running highway, being at a slightly off angle. Hopefully we can make corrections partway up. That would be the idea behind that. So at this point, we can bring this guy over to here or so, but I want to snap that only to the angle. Thank you. There we go. And now this would just come right on down like that. Okay, so that would be this area relatively complete. I do want to extend these roads out to the city limits. So that would be something like this. This is not actually generating us any additional building squares, but if we decide to, for some reason, expand out this direction into these hills, out here wouldn't be too bad, but out in these hills, it would be a little grim. If we decided to do that, it would be useful to have. So, I mean, we could always build it at that time. But for now, I want to get these on-off ramps done. So this one shouldn't be too bad if I was in Curve Tool. Curve Tool, there we go. And bring that up, and then this would come out and down, approximately like that. Cool. And then we would need off-ramps up over here. Now, this looks like it has a bend to it, but I think that's actually just the slope. No, that has a bend to it. Okay, so the bend is right about here. So let's get that taken out for now. And we are just going to use the straight line tool and snap to angle only mode. Now there's definitely not a bend there. Good. That looks solid. Okay, curve tool, and we'll do an off ramp with snapping on, thank you. An off ramp somewhere around here. That's slope too steep. Okay, so looking at the terrain here, that's not super shocking, really. Are we okay on this side? No, is the answer. It's slope too steep. Okay. So I think what we're going to need to do is take this out of here for the moment And we're just going to need to smooth out this terrain out over here a little bit. So something about like this. This exceeds city limits, which means that softening it is going to get interesting, but we'll see how that ends up working. For right now, this road is just going to position itself about here. And then this road is going to want to connect in over here, but we don't actually want to connect it yet. I'm just going to do something like this for now. And then the highway is, I think, dipping down a little too much here. So we can take that out, run this back through about there. Okay. And at this point, we've got this problem here. So I want to level this to about here or so. Then we can put in our off-ramp about here. Overlapping item from that pillar? Sure. So we can actually just extend from that pillar directly and do something like that. And then bring in this guy up over here. Forbid left turns. And then we can think about what we want to do about this terrain over here. So we can get a little bit of space there, heavy on the little, and then we can soften out this terrain as best as possible. With the city limits right here, it's not super possible, but we'll see if we're able to get a connection down over here. So this is obviously going to be sloped too steep. I'm going to use the curve tool and try to connect this in over here. That does work. I think we're going to be better off, though, to use the slope terrain tool, grab this height here, and just do something kind of like that. So that will allow us to use the curve tool here, and then curve in this section of road at a much more reasonable grade. And then we would be able to soften this out over this way, but with the city limits and the highway right there, there's not a lot to be done there. So I think that's reasonably fine. That went kind of okay. It wasn't great in terms of how easy it was to make those on-ramps, but could have been worse, no doubt about that. So I'm going to bring in something like this and something like this. Okay, this pillar is horrific. Let's get rid of that. We'll just spread these out a little further. So something like that and something like that. Sure. Zone grids make this awkward, but whatever. That's fine. Okay, so this would be where the off-ramps would go in. I would prefer to have it join into this intersection. So let's see how that ends up going. Perhaps about here? Yeah. Since we already have an intersection there, that seems fine. And then, is this going to be too short? It is indeed. That is slope too steep. So this would end up having to come out somewhere over here. Even that slope too steep. I mean, it's not that much of a fall off there. This is very solid. I like this. So I think we're going to need to do something about Sterling Street over here. Unless we wanted to very awkwardly have it come in like over here, 19.6% grade. We can put it here, which is a 19.7% grade, but for some reason isn't slope too steep. But whatever. You know what? It's horrific. And I'm going to get rid of this, and we are going to put in that. It's not good, but I mean, I think it's slightly better than having them start at completely different points. And then we can, of course, just go through and zone all of this area. So that's absolutely fine. We'll get all of this zoned and some of this to about here. And then all of this can get zoned. In fact, everything down over here can get zoned. I don't want to zone this area just yet because we are going to be building through there. Then this up over here, is this supposed to be row housing? That's a negative. Okay. So that seems fine. This area up here, I mean, eventually we're going to be building roads through here, right? But that'll do for right now. We can get a little bit of construction going on over there. And luckily for us, we don't actually have to do any sort of an interchange over here. I'm still kind of in awe at this guy. This is an absolutely stunningly horrible interchange, and I love everything about it. This is like peak horrificness. This is why I like this game right now. Now, I do have issues with it, don't get me wrong, but I am enjoying it. There's no doubt about that. Because of craziness like this. This is just amazing, and I love everything about that. The performance does need some work. There's no doubt about it. We're seeing some pretty significant frame drops. And I have issues particularly with how water is handled right now, although that's more of a lack of a service that existed in the previous game, and maybe that'll get added in. But there's definitely a few things that need to be ironed out here and there. But, I mean, that's kind of the case with every game, right? There's no such thing as a perfect game. It doesn't exist, and it can't exist, obviously. Especially if you're talking a perfect game for everyone. What do we have going on over here? Okay, that's just a very, very rapid drop-off. That looks like something that we terraformed. Yeah. I'm going to use the slope terrain tool to smooth this out a little bit. So we're just going to... That's a little too smooth. I want to grab, like, this height here. Okay, this is not going quite the way I wanted it to. Sure. I'm just going to use the soften terrain tool at this point, and we're just going to soften some of this out. It gets a little too steep, a little too quick. That is very obvious here, but I want to grab the level-ish terrain tool and just push this out a little bit over here. Then we can soften it out up here. Like that. Okay. There's still going to be some awkwardness here, but that's less harsh of a drop-off, and I think that's an improvement. So that's good. That seems absolutely fine. We are going to be ticking forward on top speed at this point, and we do see a traffic jam brewing up over here. Now, this is deeply unsurprising, given the amount of accidents that occurred in this area during that windstorm. Very unsurprising that we're having an issue here. We could build a bypass for people that are trying to directly go onto the beach highway this way. It looks like that's what the majority of people are trying to do. This might not be a great idea ultimately. And where would we be able to build this? Perhaps over here? And then the bypass would just come in over this way, right? Something like this. We would only allow the right turn here, no left turn. But that would allow people to get past this car. They'll start pathfinding into it eventually. But I'm not sure exactly when. But this would definitely lessen the strain on this roundabout. And I think that's not a terrible idea to put in a bypass here. In fact, we might want to consider for some of our busier roundabouts, putting bypasses if you're just trying to take a simple turn. That might not be a bad idea. We've got a decent amount of space around most of our roundabouts, and we could definitely do something like that. So hypothetically, I'm not going to build it here, but hypothetically, what this would end up looking like is this would come out somewhere over here and would just go in over here, something like this, and it would just simply bypass a roundabout if all you're looking to do is take a simple right-hand turn. That would be the idea, and I would think that that would reduce the strain on these roundabouts a decent amount, at least once the pathfinding figures out what's going on. Which obviously it hasn't here yet. Now, these people might not be wanting to turn right. That is a possibility. We have the people who did turn right that are causing this backup. But that's because there's a lane of traffic closed here. So this isn't super shocking that we're seeing a traffic issue here. But we can definitely see if any of these guys are going to use the bypass. And if they are, this could be a decent short-term solution to our roundabout congestion problems. To be clear, I don't think that's a problem with our city design. I think it's a pathfinding issue and a lane design issue, which we don't really have any access to do anything about. Not with the current tool set anyway. But yeah, now we've got an additional accident up over here. Okay, that's gonna go very well. Yeah, there's certainly problems in this area, but it's all to do with the accidents. I've not seen anybody utilize this bypass yet, which is mildly remarkable. In City Skylines 1, they would have already pathfound onto this, for sure. But maybe it's just because traffic is basically at a complete standstill here, and they're just not able to, like, the ones who would have pathfound into it are, like, back here. That's a possibility. And that these ones are just committed to their course or whatever. So that is a theoretical possibility. That said, this traffic accident cleared up. So these guys managed to get going. And that should mean that we start to see these guys get going. If this car would clear out. I don't know why they're going that slowly, but whatever. Well, this guy's trying to turn around in a very awkward manner. I'm not sure what he's doing, but we can start to get this traffic moving, maybe. If this guy could have gotten turned around, he was taking up 2 lanes of traffic there for a moment. Now he's moving. Okay. I don't know why he was parked sideways. I guess he was just trying to lane change. But whatever. I would like to see somebody start utilizing this here. Why are they lane changing like this? There's no reason to lane change. None at all.
Planning a quick trip out, you might want to wait a little while until everything clears up.
If you're in it, you already
Okay,
know about it.
I have no idea why they're pathfinding like this. This is what I'm saying. This is not a roundabout problem. This is a pathfinding problem. They don't know how to use the roundabout properly. That's very clear.
More high-end stores, bringing the latest in luxury to our neighborhood.
I don't know why they're going down to 1 lane of traffic here. That is a very bad idea. They should not do that. This is going to continue backing up as long as they're doing this nonsense.
Good for the community.
Thanks.
I have no idea why they've decided to do this. They shouldn't. But hopefully the bypass will reduce some of the strain. That said, people who are just taking a simple right turn are spending very little time in the roundabout, right? I think we might be starting to figure it out. Maybe? Yeah, traffic is now starting to move a bit. At least until this happened. I would love to see people start to utilize this bypass. It appears that they are not doing that right now. But that might just be a pathfinding issue. Like, these guys hadn't updated their pathfinding. These guys did, but they're not, you know, able to move up in the intersection just yet. So this is definitely an interesting idea. We'll keep an eye on it. It is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we're going to see if anybody decides to use the Lilac Highway here and take this convenient bypass that we have provided. But for now, we just need to give some time for this to clear out. It's not surprising that a traffic jam built up here, given the number of accidents that were in the area. Now, this down over here is user error, I'm pretty sure. They're doing the same thing where they're trying to condense down into 1 lane of traffic, mostly, and it's not really working very well. We can certainly do the bypass that I talked about, which would simply be something like that, something like that, something like that, and something like that. It doesn't take up all that much extra space, and we would just forbid left-hand turns at each of these, and it would just be something like this. So that allows them to fully bypass the roundabout when they're taking a right-hand turn, When they're taking anything else, they'll have to go through the roundabout, but that will reduce the strain on the pathfinding in the roundabout, which is deeply flawed. So that would be the overall idea to help get these moving for the time being. Something like this would be, I think, more difficult to get that in. But we can see. But that'll be a job for another time. Yeah, there's going to be overlapping items here, but that'll be a job for another time. It's definitely an interesting concept, and we can see if that ends up working. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings. Oh, there's a left turn over here. Hang on a moment. That needs to get deleted. No left turn allowed. No left turn allowed. Okay. I think that's all of the left turns. There we go. Likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Shadow Wolf, Andy McGar, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12UK, Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.